Today we're going to be working on this Xbox Series X, and if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll remember this Xbox Series X. Well, if you've watched any of my videos in the past few days, you'll remember this Xbox Series X. This is one that I worked on a couple of days ago, and I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't watched that video already. I recommend going and checking out that video, then come back to this one and you'll have the full context of what's gone on here. But I am going to spoil that video right now. So the TLDR of this is that I worked on this a few days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, and unfortunately I ended up having to basically replace the Southbridge board after finding some blown components on the Southbridge board that didn't fix the issue when I replaced them, and a faulty power supply. So I ended up taking the customer's BIOS chip off the customer's Southbridge board and putting it onto a non-working one, and everything was fine after I replaced the power supply as well. So I got in touch with the customer and I said to the customer, it's going to cost you £150 for this, and the bulk of that was basically parts. I was massively discounting my time. The power supply itself, that cost I think £40, and then a Southbridge board, usually fully working, you're going to be looking at around about £80, something like that. So the Southbridge board, for context, is one of these things down here. So this is a Southbridge board, and I had to replace this board in its entirety to get this console working again. The problem with that is these are paired to the APU board, so I had to take a paired chip, the BIOS chip, off the customer's board and put it onto my working board to get this working. Everything was well and good. I finished the video, everyone's happy. I edited the video, and then all of a sudden this died again. So here we are making a part 2. So the customer agreed to the price, and obviously it's it's an expensive repair, but at the end of the day the parts were fairly expensive. But yeah, the customer agreed to the price. I put it back together. I said, right, it's ready to come pick up, and he said, okay, I'll be there at 7 PM. He's a local customer, he lives a couple of miles away. I'll be there at 7 PM. I'm at work at the minute, blah blah blah. Okay, fine, good, great, awesome. No, it don't turn on. Why? I don't know. I don't have a clue. So I had to message the customer back and say, sorry, don't come collect your console because it's broke again. And I can't see why. I haven't done anything wrong to this. In fact, I put it back together while I was on a voice chat on Discord with a bunch of friends. If I'd have done anything wrong, I had my video up. You know, I go on Discord voice chat quite regularly with my video up while I'm just messing around. You know, chat to friends and stuff like that, chat to other viewers and things like that. And yeah, if I'd have done something wrong, they would have said something. So I know 100% that I haven't, damaged this, or I haven't been rough with this or anything like that. If I did, I would, I would absolutely 100% hold my hands up. I always do. You know, if I make a mistake, that's on me. And I like to, remain honest and open and upfront with everything, which is why I'm making this second video now, because literally minutes after I uploaded the video, this damn thing died again. And obviously by that time it was too late to change video because I'm on a daily upload schedule and I needed to get the video out. So yeah, hey, part 2. Lovely. So with that being said, my name's Hakko, I'm an electronics technician, sort of. Well, debatable. If that's the sort of stuff you're into, be sure to get subscribed and turn on the bell notifications, and that way you don't miss any future videos. And if you want to organise a repair, you can get in touch at the Code Repair. And if you need parts and supplies for these, you can buy those from consolefix.shop. Let's get into the video. Alright, let me show you what's going on with this. So yeah, this is a customer's disk drive, but essentially that's what's happening with it now. It's a beep on, beep off, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why. So you'll have to excuse all of the parts. I've got a PS5 which I've got half taken apart, which I'm still waiting for authorization on the cost. So I've got parts everywhere. It's not busy, but it is busy, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. I really am absolutely confused, and hopefully I can figure this out. But that being said though, as I knock that light on by accident because, well, I like to ruin my own videos. But that being said though, I have spoken to the customer about this, and I've said, look, I'm not going to be trying to charge you anymore. I'm not about that. I'm not about trying to get more out of you by just saying, suddenly it's died again. Now you owe me another 50 quid to look at it again. Like, that's not me. My main concern here is what's happened with this. But that being said, I have said to the customer, look, worst case scenario, I will make sure you get a working Xbox for the price which was quoted. I've quoted the customer £150 because this power supply costs £40 and a working Southbridge board costs around about £70 or £80. I massively discounted my time on this. But just because the customer's got his hopes up, you know, great, I've got my Xbox back, because I have spoken to the customer. This went to another repair shop, and to be honest, I think they've done a switcheroo on the power supply, because I couldn't make sense of the Southbridge board dying, right? You know, I couldn't make sense of the Southbridge board dying if the power supply had died, because surely, if that was the case, the power supply dying would have protected the Southbridge board, or it would have gone into the power supply would have gone into protection mode when it detected an issue with this board. So it just does not make any sense. But the customer doesn't know what repair shop he sent it to. He can't remember, unfortunately. I would name and shame him. Well, no, I probably wouldn't, because I don't have hard evidence of that. But it just doesn't make any sense to me, right? You know, the power supply failing and stuff like that just doesn't make any sense. And or rather, the power supply in conjunction with the 1.1 volt rail on the Southbridge board, it doesn't make any sense. Why would both of those fail? But we're going to take a look at this and just see if I can figure out what on earth has gone on with this. So I did what I always do with these. The first thing I did was I replaced the thermal paste. So if we look here, that'll come off nice and easy because I've taken it apart before. And if I remove the APU board, we've got fresh thermal paste on, you know, everything's honky-dory. The only thing I can think of with this, and this is literally, you know, me just clutching at straws here, the only thing I can think of with this is that when I first took the heatsink off, when I first took the APU board off the heatsink, it was really tight. And it did take a little bit of prying to get the APU board off. But when I say prying, I don't mean, you know, like crowbar style stuff, you know. I don't mean that. I mean, you know, when I get a console. So let me just give you a bit of context here, actually. Here's an APU board, a donor APU board. So you've got the donor APU board, you've got a plate here, blah, blah, blah. You've got your thermal paste, which goes on the heatsink, and then you've got some RAM chips here. You've got 10 RAM chips, and these RAM chips have got this blue viscous paste on. So when you take these apart for the first time, you know, from factory, what tends to happen is the thermal paste here, this viscous paste, tends to create a suction on the board, you know, because of how tightly packed everything is. So when I say prying, I don't mean prying as in, you know, yanking it off. I mean, what we do and what we have to do, and there is a reason for this, I'll show you in a second, but what we have to do is we have to try and get our fingers or something down there. We'll get a pry tool down there and then just slowly go around like this and pop it off like that, right? And the reason we have to do that is because of the way these boards are put together. So you'll notice I had to lift that straight up. I can't just slide that off because there's some retention clips on each side of the heatsink or each side of the aluminium plate, right? And that holds it on, so you can't just slide it and wiggle it and stuff. You have to literally pry at the board to get it off if it creates that suction. And yeah, the only thing, literally the only thing that I can think of is that unfortunately it's damaged a BGA chip, or, you know, the suction that was on the APU has caused the APU to partially separate from the board. I really don't know, but I just can't put my finger on it. I'm going to look over the board, you know, fresh set of eyes and all of that, but I need this console gone. It's in my way, and not only that, I need to get paid for my time and, you know, stuff like that. You know, we've all got bills to pay and stuff. So, yeah, but I just cannot put my finger on what's gone wrong. It's very doubtful it's a Southbridge board, because this is my Southbridge board. So unless I've magically put the wrong Southbridge board on, which I don't see how that's possible, then, you know, what on earth has gone on here? So it can't be that Southbridge board, because that Southbridge board there's got no Ethernet port on it. So I'm going to go through my donor boards and just make 100% sure that I haven't mixed the Southbridge board up somehow. So we've got another Southbridge board just there. So it is possible that it could be that Southbridge board, but It's very unlikely. I can't see how I could have mixed the Safebridge boards up, I'll be honest. And that Safebridge board, I believe... No, that's not the original. Okay, that's the original. No, it can't be that one. That's the original board. This is the original Safebridge board from the customer's console. So, if you look there at this Safebridge board, I'll get zoomed in. That's the one that had the hole in it, right? So it can't be that one. It can't be that one because that one's got no BIOS chip on it. So that's not possible. It can't be this one because this one's got no Ethernet port on it. So that's not possible. And it can't be this one because this one doesn't have the silk screen on it that the V1 boards have on it. So this is a V2 board and it's got no Nexus connector. So I can't see how I've mixed these up. These are the only Safebridge boards I've got lying around. Or rather, the only Safebridge boards I've got lying around basically on my little quick access donor pile on the floor, right? So, yeah, I'm not seeing any more. And I can't see how I could have possibly done that. So it's not that. It has to be something APU board related, or, you know, has that Safebridge board just magically died? I don't know. But it's very, very unlikely because usually when the Safebridge board dies, it won't turn on at all. And you'll see that I've disconnected the Wi-Fi board and stuff like that. And the reason for that is purely because I wanted to make sure, you know, it wasn't an issue with that or anything. So it's not that. So let's inspect this under the scope. So let's just have a look around here. So I'm just looking at this with fresh eyes, but it's very unlikely that I've done anything. So like I said, we have to pry this around the edges, but there is a ground plane around the edges. So unless I've knocked a component off or something with, you know, prying it off the board, prying it away, then it's very unlikely that I've done any damage to this. I mean, if I have, I'd be the first to hold my hands up. I'm just going to look around the edges. I'm not seeing, or at least so far, any damage. I mean, the shield here, this protects the APU, so there's no way I could have knocked any components past there, right? But it's very, very unlikely that I've done any kind of damage to this anyway. You know, I've done this prying the board off hundreds of times. You know, it's not like it's a new technique. It's something that we do quite regularly, and all of us do it. You know, all repair technicians. You can see a little bit of a pry just there, but you know, where I've come into the corner to try and get a little gap. You know, to try and form a little gap, but other than that, like, there's no marks here because I'm not rough with these things. And by the way, I've tried a new flex ribbon, a new 80-pin connector. So I have changed that, you know, just to see did that get damaged while I was disassembling it and stuff like that, right? But I'm not seeing anything. Like, there's no signs of anything here. Like, where's the damage? I mean, it's really not possible to cause any damage around here. No. Yeah, so what on earth has gone wrong? I really have no clue. Don't know what that was then. A little bit of gunk, a little bit of crap, but I have no clue. I don't know. Okay, so hear me out here. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's very, very possible that the prying, that suction that the APU board had, which by the way I had to do, right? I had to take this APU board off the heatsink. But I think that suction that this APU board had, because I do profoundly recall the suction being, more than normal, right? It took a lot longer to get this board off the heatsink than it does normally. So I do recall that. But I think that suction on the board has possibly damaged the BGA on this. And, it's very, very likely that the damaged BGA is going to be something on the APU itself. I am going to have a quick look at the APU, and I'm going to look at it on an angle and just see if, there's any cracked solder balls around the edges, stuff like that. But I doubt I'm going to see anything. But what I might do, if I can't get this working, the worst case scenario is I'm going to replace it for the customer and I'm going to give him a working board. And yeah, that's just the end of it. So worst case scenario, I'm going to throw this on the BGA machine and I'm going to reflow the APU, because I just really cannot put my finger on what the hell has gone on with this board. So I'm just going to look, I can't see how I've possibly damaged anything here. Literally all I do when I'm working on these, the only thing I do is I clean around, the substrate and stuff like that. I'll make sure that the thermal paste has been cleaned up properly. I do a clean job. I do a good job. Or I try to do a good job. I try to do the job to the best of my ability with every single device. So you'll see here that even when I'm off camera, I still clean up the edges of the APU. I still, clean in between all of these capacitors and stuff like that. I don't just do that for the videos. I do it on every single device. I take care of every single device, and I try and, do the job, like I said, to the best of my ability. But yeah, when you get things like this happen and you just can't put your finger on it, you can't pinpoint what's gone wrong. What can you do? You're just guessing at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we don't have things like UART for the Xbox. I mean, it's there, it's on the schematic, but we don't know how to access it. I don't think anyone's researched how to access it at this point. But, yeah. So, unfortunately, we're just guessing. But, as you'll see here, there's no damage to this APU. The SSD, that hasn't been touched. So it's not an SSD issue. I haven't mixed the SSDs up or anything like that. So unless the SSD on my Xbox has just randomly died, which no, just no, because my Xbox was, pretty much mint. The SSD on this Xbox, sorry, not my SSD. So unless that's randomly died, then I can't see any other reason why this wouldn't work. But I did speak to the customer and I asked him what the account name was on this, because I suspected that the repair shop had done a switcheroo, and he told me the user profile that's supposed to be on here, and that was correct. So I obviously, loaded it up and stuff. That was when it was still taken apart, right? So yeah, the motherboard is original, or at least, the boards are original, but I think the repair shop did a switcheroo on the power supply. That's my personal opinion on it. I can't be 100% sure, but that's what I think. But yeah, I can't think of anything else that it could be other than suction has caused one of the BGAs to get damaged or something like that. But unfortunately, there's not really that much of a test that we can do other than sitting there and checking every single capacitor and every single resistor that goes to the APU and seeing if we've got, for example, an open line. That would take hours. That would take absolutely hours. And, yes, you could theoretically do that, but unfortunately, it's just not economically viable, and I need this off my bench. So, yeah, I think I'm going to throw this on the BGA machine because I can't really see anything wrong with it. So I'm going to throw this on the BGA machine and I'm just going to try reflowing the damn thing. So one of the things that I really, really despise when it comes to repairs and when it comes to other people working on these things, when a technician can't figure out an issue with a console, they'll a lot of the time try and save face. They'll try and, you know, act like they know what they're talking about to the customer, because they don't want to lose that person as a customer, or they don't want to risk losing that person as a customer. And if the customer thinks, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, they might not come back, right? That's all well and good, but what they tend to do is, if they don't know what the issue is, they will turn around and say, oh, it's the APU, or it's CPU, you've got a dead CPU, you know? And they have no way of verifying that. They don't know how to verify it. I mean, yes, I can verify whether this is a BGA issue, but it would take hours, it's not worth it. And worst case scenario, I'm going to end up giving this customer a working board. So where's the harm in me just sitting there and reflowing the APU just in case? Because, like I said, the only thing that I distinctly remember about this console that could be significant in this case is the fact that the suction that was on the APU board was significantly harder to release than it normally would be. So I think on this occasion, it's basically just you know, going out on a whim and guessing and hoping for the best. It's like, you know, I might as well just whack a golf ball and just hope it goes in the hole. But it's kind of based on the information I've got, and I don't have any other information on this other than the fact that it's just randomly died while I was putting it back together, and there's no reason why. There's no damage to the board, there's no, you know, broken components, there's no reason why the SSD would be dead, and, you know, anything like that. I just don't know what else I can do other than to just reflow this and try it. So that's what I'm going to do. Sue me. Sue me. Well, I'm at a loss here, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this SSD off the board. We don't want to put the SSD on the BGA machine. It's a very intense machine. So now that's done, I'm going to add some flux all the way around the APU. I'm going to take off my little nozzle, and I'm just going to add flux all around. Flux is all around, in every sight and every sound. There we go. Beautiful. Just like that. Alright. I'm going to throw this on my BGA machine just like that. Let's just clamp it down. Stop it from warping. I'm going to bring my top plate down. And I'm going to run this through a reflow profile. So all I'm doing with this is just reflowing the solder joints underneath the APU. I'm going to say again and again and again, this probably isn't going to work. This is just swing and a miss. I don't know if this is going to work, and I don't know if this is the cause of the issue. I'm just randomly trying this because I can't figure out what it is. I have no clue. So yeah, sue me. This is technically my board now because I'm replacing it for the customer. And even if I get this working, I'll still give the customer my board because I'm a nice guy. So yeah. I don't know. I really don't. well, I'll give him the choice. Obviously, you get a warranty on it anyway, so yeah, I'll give him the choice. Does he want his back with his data, or does he want my board that's never had any rework done? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's going to take about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to leave it to run. Alright, so we are just about getting up to temperature here. Yeah.
20 minutes later.
Just make sure we've got no popcorning on this board. Or not on the board, on the substrate of the APU. And we don't. That's good. Great news. No popcorning. The board looks absolutely fine. These boards, well, the APUs, you'll be amazed at what these can take in terms of heat. It's unbelievable. But yeah, no popcorning. Not going to worry about cleaning this up. If it works, then I'll put it on the in the ultrasonic cleaner. But I'm just going to add. Well, I'm not even going to. You know what? I'm not even going to add much thermal paste on this. I'm just going to scrape off what's on the heatsink and put that on it instead. Because, like I said, I just want to test this, and if it works, then it'll go into the ultrasonic cleaner anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much. So I'm just going to scrape that off there and be an absolute cheapskate and just put it all onto the heatsink, onto the APU, sorry. Because I'm a cheapskate. But look, it's enough for testing, alright? So don't judge me. I'm not trying to fix. Some of us don't obsess over the perfect amount of thermal paste. Now, shout out to Tronic Fix, love that guy. Alright, so there's that. But yeah, good news is no popcorning. These APU boards, they really can take the heat. You know, I've replaced APUs completely on an Xbox Series S. You know, done an APU swap to unban. Well, I'll say unban. I did an APU swap to basically turn a banned board and a completely screwed board into a working board. Alright. Alright, let's get the board back inside the housing. This is just for testing, so I don't need to put it fully back together. I hope this actually does work, because it will confirm it. Right, moment of truth. No. I really don't know what's going on with this then. So, yeah, I guess I'm just going to replace the board. But that is dead. What can we do other than replacing the board? So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. So what I need to do is I need to take my my BIOS chip, and I need to put my BIOS chip back onto this Southbridge board. And yes, I do have that safe. I know where it is. Right there. So that BIOS chip is basically the BIOS chip to my working board. It's my own console. I'll just have to get myself a new one. You know what? As stupid as it sounds, let me just make 100% sure that I didn't get the APU boards mixed up, but I don't think I did. Like, it's very, 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 very unlikely that that happened. As stupid, I didn't think of that before, but as stupid as it sounds, but as far as I know, that's not going to be the case. No. Knew it. Alright, so I don't think it's a Southbridge board then, because that behaved like a mismatched Southbridge board would, right? So it's very unlikely that it's a Southbridge board that's the cause of the issue. Okay, let's pop this under the scope quickly. Get onto the BIOS chip here. What is that? Is that flux? Oh, I could have done a better job of cleaning that up, couldn't I? Never mind. So what I'll probably do with this is I'll probably collect up all of the paired chips and basically reball the APU at some point and put it onto another board, a banned board. Now, I might buy a banned Xbox just to try and get this, you know, APU, put some use to the APU board, the APU and stuff. Maybe. Let me know in the comments. Is that what you want me to do? Because I'll do it. I ain't scared. So this is my BIOS. Add a little bit of flux. Good. Let's clean this up. And now this board has been repaired back to my console. Let's plug that in. Turn that light off because, well, it ruins the videos. Yes. Yes. Now we have a working Xbox. There we go. Yep, that's all working. Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I really don't know what could have gone wrong with this console. But as people know who watch the videos regularly, I like to be open and upfront, right? If something goes wrong, I like to be the first to admit it, and etc, etc. You know, it's one of those things at the end of the day. It's reality at the end of the day. You know, this isn't some magical fairyland where everything's fixable, and I just don't know what's gone wrong with that Xbox, so not a freaking clue. But that being said, at least the customer is going to get a working console, assuming this one doesn't break when I put it back together. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it there. I'll tell you what, if this video gets 1,000 likes and 100 comments, I will take the APU from this board, I will buy a banned board, and I will put this APU onto that board and see if we can get it working. 1,000 likes, 100 comments. That's the goal. All right. So yeah, I'll buy a banned Xbox. I'll take the APU from this board and I will put it onto the banned Xbox and try and unban an Xbox Series X. And we'll try it. We'll see what we can do. So yeah, that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hey, at least we've got 2 videos out of this, right? Even though this video wasn't really that interesting. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. As always, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more of this type of content, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications. That way you won't miss any future videos. If you need any parts or supplies for these, you can get those from my online store, consolefix.shop. And if you need to book in a repair, you can book that in at thecoder.repair. Links are all in the video description, as well as all the links to all of the tools that I use in my videos. Your tools will come without the mess on the desk. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. And until next time, I'll see you later. Really messed that outro up, didn't I? Bye.